Introduction. Family as nature's workshop. We live in a time when family bonds are fragile and relationships are often under strain. Responsibilities can feel heavy, and many people try to escape them, even from those who love them most. The constant pressure of shared life, its demands, compromises, and duties, can sometimes feel unbearable. Yet within that very pressure lies the greatest opportunity for growth. Family is not just a social contract or a biological need. It is nature's workshop, a living, breathing laboratory where we learn what it means to rise above ourselves. Every relationship, every conflict, every routine moment is an invitation to build something greater than comfort or convenience. It is a space where human beings are refined into something more complete, more aware, more loving. In this sense, the family becomes a place of transformation. It challenges us to move beyond ego and to meet another person not as an object of desire or a source of frustration, but as a mirror, a teacher, a partner in development. The tension between two people is not a punishment. It is a precise tool designed by nature to stretch the heart and open it wider. Each role we play, partner, parent, child, grandparent, holds its own lesson. These roles are not accidents. They are positions within a larger system meant to shape our inner world. A parent learns patience and unconditional care. A partner learns to listen, to yield, to build harmony out of difference. A child learns trust and belonging. Together, these lessons form a pathway toward unity. At first, family life can seem like confinement. We meet our limits, our moods, our disappointments. But what feels like a cage is, in truth, a classroom. Every limit, every demand, every moment of friction is a quiet call to grow. When we answer that call, something shifts. We discover that love is not a feeling to be chased, but a skill to be practiced. The purpose of family is not perfection, but transformation. Through shared life, we learn to see beyond the self, to recognize that our partner's well-being, our children's joy, our elders' wisdom, all belong to the same whole that sustains us. When we begin to live for that wholeness, life gains a deeper meaning. The modern world often celebrates independence and personal freedom. Yet real freedom begins when we can choose unity, when we find strength in responsibility and discover joy in giving. The family, with all its imperfections, becomes the first and most intimate field where this new freedom can be born. This book invites you to rediscover family not as a burden, but as a sacred process, a journey that leads from self-centeredness to shared purpose, from fleeting pleasure to enduring connection. The laboratory of love is already around you, in the people who share your life, and in the daily moments that test your patience and reveal your heart. The family is not an obstacle to your growth. It is a path itself. Part 1. Foundations of the Laboratory. Chapter 1. The Scientific Spirit of Love. Love has always been surrounded by poetry, mystery, and longing. Yet in daily life, love is also a field of observation, trial, and error. It is not just a feeling that visits us. It is a process that asks for attention, honesty, and humility. To love consciously, we must learn to approach our relationships with the spirit of scientists, not cold or detached, but deeply curious, devoid of understanding, and willing to learn from every result. Curiosity is the opposite of certainty. Certainty says, I already know who you are. Curiosity says, I wonder what is happening in you right now. Certainty locks the door. Curiosity opens it. In relationships, most suffering comes not from what happens between two people, but from the stories they tell themselves about what happened. Curiosity breaks those stories apart. It lets us look again, with fresh eyes, at the person in front of us. To cultivate the scientific spirit of love, we begin by gathering clean data. Clean data means facts, not interpretations. A fact might be, you walked out of the room without a word. A story might be, you don't care about me. A fact is observable and shared. A story is layered with meaning, emotion, and ego. Both matter, but they must be seen for what they are. When we learn to separate facts from stories, we open the possibility of real understanding. In the laboratory of love, data are gathered not through microscopes but through awareness. We notice tone, expression, timing, silence. We notice our own heartbeat, our tension, our reactions. The experiment begins not with changing the other person, but with observing ourselves. The more we see, the clearer our results become. Compassion is a stance that allows this observation to continue even when things get difficult. Without compassion, the heart closes and the data become distorted. We begin to collect evidence not of reality, but of our own fears. Compassion means remembering that both you and your partner are works in progress, two human beings navigating the same mystery of growth. It is the inner warmth that lets you say, yes, we're both learning. We both forget. We both try again. This scientific spirit of love is not about control. It is about discovery. It's not about proving who is right, but uncovering what is true. Every misunderstanding, every disagreement, becomes an experiment in perception. What happens when I pause instead of react? What changes when I ask rather than assume? What opens when I listen to understand instead of defend? A relationship built on curiosity and compassion doesn't avoid conflict. It transforms it. Instead of ending in walls, conflicts become doorways. Instead of weakening connection, they deepen it. Love grows stronger not by avoiding friction, but by using it wisely. When you approach your relationship with the eyes of scientists and the heart of friend, you begin to see that every moment is data, every reaction is feedback, and every day together is another chance to refine your experiment, to see more clearly, love more honestly, and build something that lasts. Chapter 2, Tools and Method. Every laboratory needs tools. In the laboratory of love, our tools are simple, human, and available to everyone. They are not expensive or complicated, but they require practice. With time, they become instruments for clarity, connection, and growth. The first tool is journaling. Writing helps turn emotion into awareness. It gives shape to thoughts that might otherwise remain tangled and reactive. After a moment of tension or joy, take a few minutes to write what happened. Describe the facts first, then your feelings, then your insights. Ask yourself, what did I notice? What did I assume? What might be another explanation? Journaling does not need to be perfect. It is a mirror that reflects your own process, not a report card to be graded. The second tool is the evening debrief. At the end of each day, pause for a short reflection alone or with your partner. Ask simple questions. What went well today? What felt hard? What did I learn about myself? If you share it with your partner, listen more than you speak. The goal is not to fix, but to understand. Even 10 minutes of shared reflection builds trust and transparency over time. The third tool is called pause and see. Before reacting, take a breath. This short pause can change everything. It gives the nervous system time to settle and the heart time to choose. When you feel the urge to defend, blame, or withdraw, just stop and observe. What are you feeling? What is the situation really about? In that small gap, awareness replaces habit. The fourth tool is role reversal imagining. When conflict arises, take a moment to imagine yourself in your partner's place. What might they be feeling right now? What are they trying to express beneath their words? You don't have to agree, only to imagine. This simple act awakens empathy, and empathy changes the direction of every argument. The fifth tool is the tiny experiment. Each day, choose one small behavior to test. It might be speaking more gently, offering appreciation, or choosing silence instead of correction. Observe what happens, not just in your partner, but in yourself. These tiny experiments are the heart of growth. They reveal the subtle mechanics of love. How giving attention creates safety, how patience creates space, how kindness transforms atmosphere. Progress in the laboratory of love is measured not by grand declarations, but by subtle shifts. You may not notice them at first, but they are there. A moment of warmth where once there was tension, a pause where once there was reaction, a tone that softens, an argument that ends with understanding instead of distance. These are your results. Soft signs of healing and cohesion. The laboratory of love does not demand perfection. It asks only that you stay curious, stay kind, and keep practicing. Over time, the tools become habits, and the habits become your way of being. The more you use them, the clearer your inner world becomes, and the more harmony flows between you and your partner. When two people begin to live this way, observing, reflecting, experimenting, and forgiving, the relationship stops being a battlefield and becomes a living classroom. Each day offers new data, new insight, new tenderness. You learn that love is not something to find, but something to build patiently, with both hands open. This is the foundation of the laboratory. Curiosity, compassion, simple tools, small experiments, honest reflection. Through these, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and daily life becomes a path of transformation. Part 2, Core Experiments, Daily and Weekly Practices. Chapter 3, The Mirror Demands. Every relationship begins with hope, and every hope eventually meets its test. We fall in love because we see something beautiful in another person. Over time, that beauty is joined by friction, habits, and unmet needs. The very closeness that once comforted us begins to reveal our limits. We start to notice what our partner doesn't do, what they forget, what they say wrong, or what they fail to give. These observations quietly grow into complaints, and those complaints can become walls. But what if each complaint we hold was not a dead end, but a mirror? What if every irritation or disappointment could become a window into our own heart? The mirror of demands is one of the most powerful experiments in the laboratory of love. It asks you to take a recurring criticism, something you often feel or say about your partner, and turn it around to see what it reveals about you. Begin with one clear, simple statement. Maybe it's, "He never listens to me," or "She doesn't show affection," or "They don't appreciate what I do." Write it down. This is your raw material. Then, instead of asking, "Why are they like this?" ask a more daring question. What does this reflect about me? If I feel that I am not being heard, am I truly listening to others? If I feel unseen, do I see others clearly, or am I waiting to be noticed first? If I feel unappreciated, do I offer appreciation freely or only when I receive in return? These questions can be uncomfortable at first, but they open the doorway to growth. They shift the focus from blame to awareness. Each demand we place on another person often points to something we have not yet mastered in ourselves. The moment we see that, we take our power back. Now, try the experiment. Choose one day, just one, and decide to reduce your demand. Instead of expecting that thing from your partner, give its opposite quality to them. If you long for attention, offer attention. If you crave respect, show respect. If you want affection, give affection. Do it consciously, not to manipulate, but to discover what happens in you when you reverse the pattern. Notice how it feels to give what you usually want to receive. Notice your resistance, your inner dialogue, your shifts in emotion. You may feel awkward or insincere at first, but stay with it. This is part of the process. Often, we realize that the very thing we were waiting for has always been within our reach to create. When you reduce a demand, you create space. In that space, love can move. Relationships suffocate under the weight of unspoken expectations. They come alive when both partners feel seen without being judged. By giving first, we change the atmosphere. The other person doesn't have to change right away. What changes is the emotional field between you. That field becomes lighter, safer, more open. Throughout this practice, remember a simple phrase: love covers all errors. It doesn't mean that we ignore problems or pretend that everything is fine. It means that love has the power to hold imperfection without collapse. Just as a parent sees a child's mistake and continues to love them, you can learn to look at your partner's humanity and choose care over criticism. Every time an old irritation rises up, recall this principle. Ask yourself, can I cover this moment with love instead of amplifying it with blame? Sometimes it simply means staying quiet for a breath, or softening your voice, or offering a touch instead of a comment. Small gestures can shift the entire tone of a day. If your partner is willing, you can make this a shared practice. In the evening, take a few minutes to reflect together. Ask, which demand did I release today? How did that change my experience of you? Did it open space for more kindness or warmth? Listen to each other without defense or debate. This conversation is not about keeping score. It is about learning to see the relationship as a living organism that responds to every act of giving. Over time, you will begin to notice something profound. As you stop feeding the cycle of demands, a gentler quality arises. Patience appears where there was once tension. Gratitude replaces entitlement. The heart begins to recognize the partner not as a source of frustration, but as a mirror reflecting its own work. This experiment doesn't mean suppressing your needs. It means approaching them with awareness and compassion. When you give what you wish to receive, you remind yourself that love is not a transaction. It's a circulation. It flows through the one who gives as much as through the one who receives. The mirror demands teaches a quiet truth. Every unmet expectation is an invitation to grow. What looks like your partner's failure might be your soul's lesson. And what seems like a lack of love may be a moment waiting for your own love to enter. Try it again tomorrow. One demand, one reversal, one day at a time. Each time, watch what shifts. Some days will be easy. Others will test your patience. But each day you practice, you strengthen the muscles of humility, generosity, and awareness. When love begins to see through the mirror, it stops counting faults. It starts creating possibilities. And in that shift from demand to discovery, the relationship becomes a true laboratory for transformation. Love covers all errors because love sees beyond them. It doesn't erase imperfection. It illuminates the path through it. When you learn to give before you receive, to understand before you judge, and look inward before you blame, you begin to experience the quiet, steady joy of the love that grows wiser every day. Chapter 4. Finding joy through your partner. Joy is one of the deepest needs of the human heart. We chase it in comfort, in success, in recognition, in moments of pleasure that light us up and then quickly fade. We build our lives around small bursts of satisfaction, yet so often they leave us wanting more. There's another kind of joy, one that doesn't vanish when the moment passes. It is a joy that comes from connection, from shared purpose, from knowing that your growth is linked with another's. In relationships, joy begins to mature when we stop asking, "What do I get?" and begin asking, "What do we become?" At first, we might seek pleasure from our partner, attention, affection, admiration. These are natural and human desires, but they are temporary. They rise and fall with mood and circumstance. Higher joy, lasting joy, comes when we recognize that our partner is not here just to make us comfortable. They are here to help us awaken. Your partner is not an accessory to your happiness. They are a vital part of the circuit through which love flows. Imagine two ends of a wire. Alone, each one carries potential but no current. Only when a connection is made does energy move, light appears, and warmth spreads. You and your partner are those two ends. Joy is the current. It flows only when the circuit is complete, when both of you are engaged in giving and receiving beyond self-interest. This experiment begins with a shift in awareness. Take a quiet moment and think of your partner's face. Then, instead of asking what you want from them, ask what purpose you share. Why has this person been placed in your life? What can you learn together that you could never learn alone? When we see our partner as part of our inner evolution, the meaning of the relationship deepens. Even conflict and misunderstanding begin to feel like lessons instead of failures. Try a simple practice. Throughout the day, when you think of your partner, silently repeat, "We are on the same path. We are learning together." Notice how this small phrase changes your tone, your thoughts, your gestures. Gratitude begins to rise naturally when you remember that you are not alone in the laboratory of life. At the end of the day, express that gratitude out loud, even briefly. "I'm glad you're with me on this journey." These words, spoken with sincerity, reinforce the shared field of purpose between you. They remind both hearts that joy is not something to demand. It is something to awaken together. Chapter 5. Awakening love in your partner. Many people wait to feel love before they give love. They wait for a sign of warmth, a gesture, or reassurance before opening their own heart. But love that waits rarely grows. Love that gives freely begins to multiply. When you choose to awaken love in your partner, you take the first step in a cycle that nourishes both of you. This experiment begins with intention. Sit quietly and think, "I want to awaken love and inspiration in my partner, even if I don't fully feel it right now." There is no hypocrisy in this. You are not pretending. You are initiating. Love is like a flame that passes from one candle to another. The first candle must light itself, not by emotion, but by intention. Once your intention is set, act on it in the smallest, most visible way. It might be a kind word, a gentle touch, a warm smile when your partner enters a room. It might be something practical, making them tea, sending a short message, or offering help without being asked. The gesture itself is less important than the awareness behind it. You are planting a seed of care. As you act, imagine your partner's natural response. Visualize them softening, smiling, or feeling seen. You are not doing this to control them or expect repayment. You are tuning your own heart to the frequency of giving. Often, the simple imagination of their warmth is enough to awaken warmth in you. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between real and vividly imagined connection. The heart feels the same expansion either way. Over time, your genuine actions begin to create real shifts. Your partner may respond subtly, a calmer tone, a lighter mood, a lingering glance. Sometimes they won't respond right away, and that's fine. The change has already begun because love is self-reinforcing. When you give it, you experience it. The act itself feeds you. And this experiment, each day with gratitude. Whisper to yourself, I'm thankful that I can awaken love between us. Even if nothing outward seems different yet, something invisible has moved. The field between you has warmed. Love has been invited to grow. When two people practice this, even imperfectly, the results are profound. A quiet kindness begins to circulate. You stop waiting for proof of love and start living as love's proof. Over time, this becomes natural. The relationship becomes a place of awakening rather than a test of worthiness. Chapter 6. Becoming your partner's researcher. In most relationships, we think we already know our partner. We assume we've seen every expression, heard every story, and understood their patterns. But the truth is, we never see another person completely. There's always more to discover, new details, new nuances, new light. When we stop being curious, love begins to flatten. When we start observing again, love comes alive. This experiment invites you to become your partner's researcher. That means approaching them not as a fixed personality, but as a living mystery. Each day, set a quiet intention. Today I will notice one new thing about them. It could be something small, a new way they move, a phrase they repeat, the way their eyes change when they talk about something important. These details are data points in the ongoing experiment of love. Write down what you notice, or simply keep it in mind. You are not judging or analyzing. You are observing. The goal is not to change them, but to see them more fully. Often, what you notice will surprise you. The person you thought you knew may reveal new layers when you simply pay attention. After observing, turn the mirror inward. Ask yourself, what did I show today? What might my partner have noticed in me? Awareness flows both ways. Just as you observe them, they are constantly observing you, consciously or not. Each of you shapes the other's perception of love. The next part of this practice is a gentle experiment called What If I? Each evening, ask yourself, what if I tried something small tomorrow? It might be speaking more softly, asking a curious question instead of making a statement, or taking a longer pause before replying. Choose one micro shift. Implement it the next day and watch what happens, not a controlled result, but to learn from it. This mindset transforms everyday life into a shared study of connection. You begin to see patterns, causes, and effects. You notice what opens a heart and what closes it. You start to realize that the relationship itself is a living system, always responding to the quality of your attention. Becoming your partner's researcher doesn't mean detachment. It means deeper involvement. True observation is a form of love. It says, you matter enough for me to notice. When someone feels seen in this way, they relax. They begin to trust the space between you again. At the end of the day, reflect for a moment. What did you discover? What surprised you? Did you find something that made you smile or something that challenged you? Every discovery is progress because it brings you closer to seeing reality as it is, not as you assume it to be. Repeat this experiment daily. Some days your observations will be rich. Other days, they will be simple. Both matter. Consistency is more important than novelty. Over time, this practice trains your attention to stay awake to your partner's presence. You stop moving through the relationship on autopilot and start seeing it as a living field of discovery. To research your partner is to respect them. It is to admit that you do not fully know them and that this unknowing is what keeps love alive. The mystery is not a problem to be solved. It is the beauty that keeps you curious, attentive, and open. When both partners practice this, the relationship becomes a shared journey of awareness. Each of you becomes both scientist and subject, observer and participant. The result is a love that grows wiser with time, a love that stays awake. Chapter 7, Turning Me into We. The word we is small, but it carries the power to transform everything. Many people live in relationships that look like partnerships from the outside, but on the inside still revolve around two isolated worlds. The sense of mine and yours, my time and your time, my comfort and your comfort, still shapes their thoughts. The experiment of turning me into we begins with noticing how deeply those divisions run, and how freeing it can be to soften them. In love, unity is not built through grand gestures. It grows through the smallest act of awareness. Every object, every routine choice, can either reinforce separation or build connection. Look around your home for a moment. See the things you both use, the table, the cups, the books on the shelf. Each of them silently holds your shared life. They are not just possessions. They are symbols of your we. When you pick up an ordinary object today, a mug, a towel, a remote, pause for a second and think, this is part of our shared world. It exists for both of us. Let that awareness sink in. Notice how it changes the way you move, the way you place something down, the way you care for what surrounds you. The moment you stop seeing things as mine or yours, the space between you begins to soften. Then take the next small step. Practice a tiny relinquishment. Choose one simple act where you can place your partner's comfort slightly above your own. Offer them the more comfortable seat, the preferred meal, the extra bit of time to rest. Do it consciously and without hidden expectation. The gesture may seem trivial, but its impact is profound. Each time you yield in this way, you create a new rhythm of togetherness. Unity doesn't mean losing yourself. It means expanding your sense of self to include another. The I is still there, but it becomes part of a larger field. In the quiet act of giving up a small preference, you are telling your partner, you matter to me as much as I matter to myself. The ego may resist this, whispering, what about me? But the heart knows that in serving the me is never truly diminished. It is fulfilled. At the end of the day, reflect on your relinquishment. How did it feel to give without recognition? Did it make you lighter or heavier? Often, you will find that the act of letting go brings an unexpected joy, a quiet peace that grows each time you remember that you and your partner are parts of one life, one system, one experiment in love. Chapter 8. Building love through yielding. To yield is not to lose. It is to choose peace over pride. Most of us are taught to fight for our opinions, to protect our position, to prove our point. But in relationships, victory often costs more than it gives. Love grows not in the clash of wills, but in the gentle art of yielding. Yielding begins in the mind. It starts with a decision to trade demand for generosity. When you feel the urge to insist, pause and ask yourself, what would happen if I yielded here? What if just for now, I gave space instead of resistance? This is not submission. It is strength expressed through awareness. You are not giving into weakness. You are giving way to love. Try a simple experiment. The next time a disagreement arises, resist the impulse to have the last word. Instead, listen, breathe. Notice what your partner is truly saying beneath the words, the feeling, the need, the vulnerability. Respond not to the argument, but to the human being who stands before you. Yielding in this way does not mean you abandon your truth. It means you trust that truth doesn't need to be shouted to be real. When you yield, you create space for love to flow. In that space, both hearts can breathe again. The energy that would have fueled conflict becomes energy for connection. Over time, this practice teaches the ego that not every battle must be fought, and not every difference must be erased. The act of yielding itself becomes a form of communication, a wordless message that says, our unity is more important than my victory. Love that endures is built on this foundation. It is a structure made of concessions, kindnesses, and moments when one person chooses to step back, so that both can move forward. Each concession you make for the sake of peace builds a quiet strength within you. It trains the heart to love without calculation. To sustain this practice, remember the principle of unconditional giving. Real giving is not an exchange. It is an offering. When you give simply to elicit a response, you are still trading. When you give without expectation, you are loving. This shift in motive changes everything. It releases tension and awakens gratitude, both in you and in your partner. Now, add a layer of visualization. Imagine your intentions and your partner's intentions as two lines of light. As you yield, these lines begin to merge, forming one continuous current of understanding. The more you yield, the brighter the current becomes. Eventually, you can feel that your separate desires are part of a larger movement, one that belongs to both of you. Yielding is not always easy. The ego fears disappearance. But the truth is that what disappears in yielding is not your identity. It is your defensiveness, your resistance, your unnecessary suffering. What remains is the essence of who you are, capable, compassionate, whole. When love is built through yielding, the relationship no longer feels like a struggle for power. It becomes a dance of balance. Each partner learns when to lead and when to follow, when to speak and when to listen, when to hold firm and when to flow. This balance doesn't weaken love. It strengthens it. It teaches both people to trust a rhythm that moves beneath words and actions, the rhythm of unity. Chapter 9. Seeing your partner as part of your soul. There's a profound shift that happens when you stop seeing your partner as the other and begin to experience them as part of yourself. In this awareness, love moves from emotion to essence. The boundary between you and me fades, and what remains is a shared soul expressing itself through two forms. Every quality your partner has, every strength, every flaw, every dream, and every fear is part of the same vessel that you share. Their struggles are not separate from yours. They are reflections of a larger whole. When you recognize this, compassion replaces judgment. Instead of asking, why are they like this, you begin to ask, what part of us is learning through this? This perspective changes the way you relate. When your partner faces difficulty, you no longer stand on the outside as a critic or savior. You stand beside them as a co-traveler. Their pain is not something to fix, but something to hold with understanding. When they grow, you feel that growth is your own. When they stumble, you learn humility together. Try this simple awareness exercise. Sit quietly and imagine your partner before you. Picture a thread of light connecting your hearts. See that thread as living, pulsing, breathing. Now imagine more threads, thinner, finer, linking every part of you to every part of them. Your thoughts, your intentions, your memories. These threads are not chains, they are conduits. Through them flows the shared energy of life, the essence that unites you. As you hold this image, reflect on one of your partner's traits that challenges you. Perhaps it's their impatience, their forgetfulness, their stubbornness. Instead of resisting it, say to yourself, this too is part of our shared vessel. This quality exists in me as well, in another form. Feel how the tension eases when judgment gives way to acceptance. You are not excusing their behavior. You are acknowledging that both of you are made of the same human material. When you view your partner this way, conflicts lose their harsh edge. You can still address what needs attention, but you do it from the awareness that you are tending to your shared soul. Every kind word, every patient gesture, every act of forgiveness strengthens the light threads between you. They become more resilient, more luminous. Over time, you begin to sense that your connection is larger than your individual stories. It stretches beyond the moments of misunderstanding and carries you through them. This is what real unity feels like, not fusion that erases difference, but harmony that honors it. You remain two distinct beings, yet join in one invisible heartbeat. The more you practice seeing your partner as part of your soul, the less you need to defend yourself against them. The impulse to prove or to win slowly dissolves. You begin to feel that every time you hurt them, you hurt yourself. Every time you lift them, you lift yourself. This awareness becomes a quiet compass, guiding your choices toward care, patience, and truth. When you wake in the morning, look at your partner and think, this person is a fragment of my own soul, sent to teach me love. When you go to sleep, Think, through them, I am learning who I am. Hold that awareness gently. It will transform how you see, how you speak, and how you give. Seeing your partner as part of your soul is the essence of spiritual partnership. It is a recognition that life is not asking two people to tolerate each other. It is inviting them to remember their unity. And from that unity, all healing, all joy, and all wisdom arise. Chapter 10. Seeing Beyond the Ego's Image. Every person carries an inner lens through which they see the world, a filter built from memory, habit, and emotion. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. In relationships, this filter becomes a voice of the ego, the part of us that wants control, validation, and certainty. The ego paints our partner with its own colors, magnifying flaws, exaggerating disappointments, and comparing reality to an imagined standard. This is why even people who love deeply can sometimes feel estranged from each other. The issue is not always what the partner does. It's how the ego interprets it. One cold tone becomes rejection. One forgotten task becomes proof of indifference. The ego is always scanning for evidence that confirms its story. I'm not valued, I'm right, or I deserve better. To see beyond this filter is the heart of spiritual love. Begin by noticing the filter in real time. When irritation rises, pause. Ask yourself, what story is my ego telling right now? Then ask, what might be true beyond that story? Maybe your partner isn't ignoring you. Maybe they're tired, preoccupied, or protecting their own tender spot. Maybe the tension isn't rejection. It's simply two nervous systems out of sync. This single act of questioning interrupts the ego's automatic narrative and makes space for truth. Next, practice seeing your partner as already whole. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means seeing beyond the surface behavior to the essence that remains unbroken beneath it. Every person, no matter how flawed, carries a core light, a spark that wants to love and be loved. When you choose to see your partner from that place, your perception itself becomes an act of healing. Try one experiment today. Act toward your partner as if they were already radiant. Speak to the light in them instead of the shadow. Offer respect even when you feel resistance. Treat their soul as whole, not as a project to fix. Often, you will notice that this simple shift changes the entire atmosphere. Your partner may not consciously know why, but something inside them will relax. Because every person longs to be seen through the eyes of love rather than judgment. This practice is not about denial. You still see behavior clearly, but you don't reduce the person to their momentary state. You hold both truth and compassion. You can say, "This action hurt me," while still remembering, you are more than this action. This is what it means to see beyond the ego's image, to look through the mask and find the light behind it. Over time, this vision becomes your natural sight. The more you practice it, the less power the ego has to distort your perception. You begin to see your partner not as a bundle of flaws and habits, but as a living soul on the same path of awakening as you. That recognition itself is love. Chapter 11. Learning love through your partner. The purpose of a relationship is not only comfort or companionship, it is growth. We come together not just to be loved, but to learn love. Our partner becomes a living mirror, reflecting where our heart is open and where it is still closed. Through them, life gives us constant opportunities to refine our capacity to give, to receive, and to care without condition. Learning love begins with intention. In quiet moments, ask within yourself, let me gain awareness of love and giving through this relationship. This is a request not to your partner, but to life itself. You're asking to see what love really is, beyond habit, beyond transaction, beyond personal preference. When you make this request sincerely, lessons begin to appear everywhere, in moment of harmony and in moment of tension. The next step is to give from inner abundance. True giving doesn't come from need or obligation. It comes from overflow. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So before you reach out to give, take a breath and connect with your own source, that quiet, steady place within that remembers, I am enough. From there, offer something small, attention, patience, understanding, or time. When giving flows from fullness, it nourishes both giver and receiver. After giving, practice humility and receptivity. Notice what your partner gives in return. Maybe a smile, a glance, a word, or silence. Don't measure or compare. Simply receive. Let their response, whatever it is, inspire you instead of disappoint you. When you receive with humility, you start to feel love as a circulation, not as a possession. This experiment teaches that love is not a skill you master once. It is a language you learn through daily interaction. Each encounter, even the frustrating ones, is part of the lesson. When you misunderstand each other, instead of blaming, ask, "What is this teaching me about love right now?" The answer is often simple: patience, empathy, forgiveness, or courage. The more you approach your partner as a teacher, the more sacred the relationship becomes. You begin to see that life uses this connection to evolve both of you. Every smile exchanged, every conflict resolved, every shared silence contributes to your education in love. At the end of each day, take a moment of gratitude. Whisper to yourself, "Through you, I am learning how to love." Feel the truth of that. The lessons may be subtle, but they are shaping your soul. One day, you will look back and realize that your partner, with all their imperfections, was the most effective teacher life could have sent you. Chapter 12, Giving Healthy Love. Love can take many forms. Some forms are pure, others are distorted by need, fear, or control. Healthy love strengthens both people. Unhealthy love weakens one or both. The art of giving healthy love lies in learning the difference between indulgence and true care, between comfort that numbs and comfort that heals. When we love someone, our instinct is to protect them from discomfort. We want to give them everything they ask for, to ease their pain, to make them happy. But sometimes, what the other person wants is not what will help them grow. To give healthy love is to look deeper, to ask, what truly supports this person's well-being and development, rather than what will make them like me right now? Healthy love is both kind and wise. It sees the long arc of growth rather than the short-term relief of desire. It might mean setting a boundary, speaking a hard truth gently, or encouraging independence instead of dependence. These acts don't always feel comfortable, but they create respect, stability, and trust. Begin this experiment by observing your own motives when you give. Ask yourself, am I giving to be needed? Am I giving to avoid conflict? Or am I giving because I genuinely wish for this person's growth? When the motive is pure, the act feels light and freeing. When it is mixed with fear or guilt, it feels heavy and draining. Next, imagine your partner's true needs, not their passing wants, but the needs that help them become more whole. The need to feel safe, the need to be seen, the need to develop strength, confidence, and peace. Then ask, what can I offer that supports these? It might be listening instead of advising, space instead of rescue, or encouragement instead of correction. When you give in this way, you begin to experience a mutual strengthening. The love you offer does not deplete you. It enriches you. You feel grounded, centered, alive. The relationship starts to move from dependency to reciprocity. Two whole beings supporting each other's highest growth. Healthy love is never blind. It does not deny reality or idealize the other person. It sees clearly and chooses kindly. It says, I love you enough to want your truth, not your comfort. This kind of love builds maturity. It replaces emotional hunger with genuine nourishment. If both partners practice this, their bond becomes resilient. They stop draining each other for validation and start uplifting each other through understanding. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to strengthen, to evolve, and to remember that love's purpose is not to satisfy every whim, but to bring both souls closer to their fullest expression. At the end of the day, reflect on what kind of love you gave. Did it come from need or from wholeness? Did it serve momentary peace or lasting strength? Be honest and be gentle with yourself. Learning to give healthy love is a lifelong practice, a refining process. When you learn to give what truly nourishes rather than what merely soothes, you become a channel for real love, love that uplifts, heals, and endures. In that kind of giving, both hearts grow larger, steadier, and infinitely more free. Chapter 13. Fulfilling your partner's true desires. Love matures when we learn to distinguish between our partner's surface wants and their deeper desires. The surface wants are often loud. They change with mood, circumstance, or ego. The deeper desires are quieter. They arise from soul. They are not always expressed clearly, and sometimes they even hide behind words that sound demanding or defensive. To love well is to learn to listen beneath the words, to sense what your partner truly longs for: peace, meaning, recognition, safety, or the feeling of being deeply understood. This chapter's experiment is about honoring those authentic wishes, even when they differ from your own. It begins with a shift from control to respect. Most conflict arises when we try to mold our partner into a version that fits our comfort. True love, however, releases that need. It says, I may not understand all of your desires, but I trust that they have meaning for you. When you hold your partner's wishes with that kind of reverence, you create space for honesty to grow. Start by paying attention to what energizes and softens your partner. Notice what lights them up when they speak. Notice what brings peace to their body language. These are signs of their true desires. Ask gentle questions, not to interrogate, but to understand. What matters most to you right now? What would make you feel most alive? Listen without defending your own preferences. Your role is not to agree with everything, but to see what is real for them. Then, practice supporting one of those desires, even if it doesn't align perfectly with yours. Maybe your partner wants quiet when you crave activity, or they want time alone when you wish for closeness. See what happens when you give them that space freely, not as a sacrifice, but as a gift of trust. You are saying, your path matters to me, even when it moves differently than mine. Guidance is sometimes needed, but it should always be gentle. If you see that your partner's desire might lead to harm or imbalance, don't forbid, invite reflection. Ask, what do you think this will bring you? Or, how can we make this healthy for both of us? Gentle curiosity opens more hearts than control ever could. Love thrives when both partners feel free to pursue what nourishes their soul while remaining connected to one another. The paradox of true union is that it doesn't require sameness. It requires respect for difference. When you learn to honor your partner's desires as sacred expressions of their being, the relationship becomes a sanctuary for growth. To fulfill your partner's true desires is to serve something greater than comfort. It is to serve truth. And when truth is honored, love deepens, even in silence. Chapter 14, The Intermarriage Vow. Every relationship begins with a promise, spoken or unspoken. It may take the form of a wedding vow, a private commitment, or a quiet understanding. But with time, that vow is tested. Emotions rise and fall. People change. Moments of disappointment and anger make the promise feel distant. The intermarriage vow is what keeps love anchored through those storms. The inner vow is not made once. It is renewed again and again. It is a silent agreement within you that says, no matter what happens, I will protect this bond from harm. I will not act against the love we have built. This vow exists beneath emotion, beneath preference, beneath convenience. It is the solid ground on which trust is built. To live by the inner vow requires steadiness, a kind of parental love that cares even when frustrated, that protects even when tired. Think of how a parent holds a child who is angry or crying. The parent doesn't respond with rejection. They hold the boundary of love steady until the storm passes. In the same way, your vow becomes a container that protects your relationship through emotional weather. When you feel anger, remember, the vow is higher than the mood. When you feel distance, remember, the vow is stronger than the silence. When you are tempted to wound with words, remember, the vow forbids you to harm what you love. This awareness doesn't make emotion disappear, but it transforms how you express it. You can speak truth, even difficult truth, without betraying the bond. This practice is not about suppressing feelings. It's about remembering perspective. The inner vow allows you to see conflict as a passing wave on the surface of a deep ocean. The love beneath is still there. Your job is to protect that depth until the wave subsides. To strengthen this vow, repeat to yourself during moment of tension, my promise is stronger than my mood. Feel how those words ground you. They bring you back to clarity, to the choice that love is a commitment, not just a feeling. In the long run, this steadiness becomes a gift. Your partner feels it as safety, the assurance that they can be imperfect and still be loved. That safety, in turn, allows both of you to grow. The intermarriage vow is the bridge between emotion and devotion, between change and constancy. It is the quiet heartbeat of every lasting union. When you live by it, love becomes less fragile and more real, not dependent on how you feel today, but on what you have chosen to stand for always. Chapter 15, Opening the Heart Without Words. There are moments in every relationship when words fail, when explanations, apologies, or reassurances can't bridge the distance. In those moments, the mind's effort only adds noise. What can reach deeper than speech is presence, the silent transmission of care from one heart to another. This chapter's experiment invites you to open your heart without speaking. Sit quietly with your partner, or, if they're not physically near, hold them in your mind. Let go of the need to solve, to justify, or to be understood. Breathe, and imagine your awareness settling from the head down into the chest. Feel the center of your chest warm and expand, as if a small light were glowing there. Now, bring your partner to mind. Picture them as they are, not idealized, not judged, simply human. Imagine that from your heart a soft current of warmth moves toward them. You don't need to visualize perfectly, just feel the intention. May you feel safe. May you feel seen. May you feel loved. Stay in the silent presence for a while. You might notice that something subtle changes. Your body relaxes, your breathing deepens, and a gentle connection forms between you and your partner. That connection is a heart-to-heart channel, the invisible language of love that doesn't require sound. If you are together in the same space, try this without saying anything. Sit near each other, perhaps touch hands or simply share silence. Let the warmth build naturally. When you feel it, you'll understand that love doesn't depend on constant dialogue. It lives in shared stillness. Respond to this inner connection with quiet gratitude. You can say in your mind, "Thank you for being in my life," or simply, "Thank you for this moment." Gratitude is the natural completion of love's circuit. It seals the silent exchange with peace. This practice may seem simple, but its power is immense. Many relationships are crowded with words, explanations, defenses, promises. Yet the heart listens best in silence. When you cultivate this kind of wordless communication, the space between you becomes softer, safer, and more alive. Even in times of distance or conflict, you can return to this silent channel. Without saying anything, you can hold your partner in your awareness with warmth. You can offer forgiveness without announcing it, or send care without expectation. The other person may not know why, but they will feel a shift. Hearts are far more perceptive than minds. In truth, silence is not the absence of communication. It is its highest form. To open the heart without words is to trust that love knows how to speak for itself. Quietly, steadily, and with a wisdom beyond language. When words can't reach, presence can. When speech fails, silence continues the conversation. And in that sacred quiet, love finds its purest voice. Chapter 16, The Silence That Grows Love. Every relationship contains moments of tension, the small clashes of will, the sharp edges of misunderstanding. Words often rush to fill those spaces, trying to fix or defend, to justify or correct. But words, when driven by ego, can deepen the divide instead of closing it. Silence, on the other hand, has the quiet power to heal. To choose silence in a moment of conflict is not weakness. It is mastery. It means choosing unity over victory. It means remembering that being right is never worth more than being together. The next time an argument begins to rise, pause. Feel the energy in your body, the tightening in your chest, the readiness to reply. Instead of reacting, breathe. Notice the impulse to speak and let it pass like a wave. You are not suppressing your truth. You are giving it room to mature before releasing it. This pause is sacred space, the space where love catches its breath. Silence at the right moment is not absence. It is presence in its purest form. It says to your partner, "I care more about peace than about winning." In that quiet, something begins to shift. The emotional heat cools. The nervous system settles. The heart opens again. What seemed like a wall a moment ago becomes a doorway. It takes strength to hold silence without retreating into coldness. True silence is warm. It listens. It sees the other person's pain without judgment. It allows both people to come back to themselves. Often, you'll find that your partner's defensiveness softens when you stop feeding the argument with words. Your calm becomes a mirror in which they can see their own reflection more clearly. Over time, you begin to recognize that not every battle needs resolution. Some need only stillness. When two people can sit together after disagreement, quietly, openly, without retreat or hostility, they touch a level of connection deeper than reason. The silence itself becomes communication, saying, I am still here. We are still one. Practice this form of silence deliberately. The next time conflict arises, choose to pause instead of push. Let your breath be your language. Let your calm be your statement. Love grows in that space. What you lose in argument, you gain in understanding. The silence that grows love is not the silence of avoidance. It is the silence of awareness. It holds, it heals, it harmonizes. Through it, you discover that peace is not the end of communication. It is the highest form of it. Chapter 17, The Warm Point of Connection. Within every human being, there is a center, a quiet point of warmth in the chest that glows when we feel connected, safe, or loved. It is not a metaphor. It is a real sensation, a subtle pulse of energy that responds to closeness and care. This point is the hearth of the heart, the flame that love tends. To find it, sit quietly and place a hand over your chest. Close your eyes and breathe slowly. Feel where warmth begins to rise beneath your palm, perhaps faint at first, then spreading gently outward. This is your warm point of connection. It is the inner space where love begins before it ever becomes words or actions. Now, bring your partner to mind. Picture them sitting across from you, not as an idea or a role, but as a living being with their own warm point glowing in their chest. In your imagination, see that small light, tender, alive, quietly burning. With your next few breaths, imagine your warmth reaching toward theirs, like a soft beam of light moving across space. As your awareness meets theirs, see the two lights slowly joining, not losing individuality, but merging into one shared flame. Feel the brightness increase as both hearts contribute to it. The warmth is no longer mine or yours. It becomes ours. Stay with this image for a while. Breathe into it. Let the warmth spread through your body, down your arms, into your face. This is what true connection feels like. Not intensity or dependency, but calm radiance. It is the quiet joy of two beings linked in presence. You can return to this practice anytime you feel distant or misunderstood. The warm point of connection is always there, even when the mind is full of noise. By remembering it, you call both hearts back home. You remind yourselves that beneath all words, roles, and moods, there's one shared field of love that never disappears. At the end of the practice, whisper softly in your mind, may this flame stay alive between us. You don't need to force anything. The intention itself keeps the warmth burning. The more you tend to this flame, the more naturally your relationship will radiate peace. Small irritations will cool faster, affection will flow more freely, and the sense of separation will fade. You will start to feel that love is not something you create, but something you uncover, the light that was always glowing within you both. When two warm points unite, they form a single living fire. And in that fire, everything that once divided you gently melts away. Chapter 18, Honoring Your Partner's Freedom. To love another person is to stand beside mystery. No matter how long you've been together, your partner remains a being with their own inner world, thoughts, feelings, and rhythms that you will never completely know. This difference is not a flaw. It is a heartbeat of love itself. The ego wants sameness. It wants control, predictability, and comfort. But real love honors freedom. It recognizes that your partner's uniqueness is not a threat, but a gift, a mirror that expands your own understanding of life. Start this experiment by reflecting on where you subtly try to shape your partner into your image. It might be in small things, how they speak, how they rest, what they value. Notice the quiet wish for them to be more like you. That wish, though natural, is a seed of control. Let it go. Say inwardly, I release you to be yourself. This release is not withdrawal. It is respect. It says, I love you as a separate whole. It gives your partner room to breathe, to grow, to change. And paradoxically, the more space you give, the more they feel safe to stay close. Next, imagine your differences as complementary bridges rather than opposing forces. Picture yourself as one side of a riverbank and your partner as the other. Between you stretches a bridge made of shared intention, the desire to understand, to meet in the middle. Each plank of that bridge is built from acceptance, patience, and curiosity. When you walk across that bridge, you don't abandon who you are. You bring your full self, your strengths, your perspective, and you meet your partner halfway. Together, you create a unity that doesn't erase difference but harmonizes it. This unity across difference is what makes love rich and alive. Two identical people cannot grow each other. It is the meeting of contrast, logic with emotion, steadiness with spontaneity, quiet with expression, that allows evolution. Each partner refines the other through gentle friction and mutual respect. Whenever you feel the urge to correct or control, pause and remind yourself, difference is not defect. Your partner's uniqueness is not something to fix. It is something to understand. Ask questions. Listen with wonder. Let curiosity replace certainty. Over time, honoring your partner's freedom teaches you a profound truth. Love is not possession. It is participation. It is two free souls choosing, again and again, to meet in understanding. When love matures, freedom and unity no longer feel like opposites. They become two wings of the same bird. Without freedom, love suffocates. Without love, freedom drifts apart. Together, they lift the relationship into flight, light, alive, and endlessly renewing. Honor your partner's freedom, and they will meet you with gratitude. Build bridges, not cages. Celebrate difference as the way love learns to see itself from every angle. Then unity will not be forced. It will arise naturally, like two melodies blending into one harmonious song. Chapter 19, Obstacles as Helpers of Love. Every lasting relationship encounters obstacles. They may come as misunderstandings, disappointments, fatigue, or periods of distance. Many see these as signs that something is wrong, that love is failing. But what if each obstacle is not an enemy, but an ally? What if every friction was a carefully placed weight designed to strengthen the muscles of love? Imagine two people in a gym, standing side by side, lifting the same bar. The bar is heavy. Sometimes one person struggles while the other steadies it. Sometimes they both falter. But over time, their bodies grow stronger because of resistance. Love works the same way. Every difficulty is a kind of spiritual weight. When you lift it together instead of against each other, the bond between you becomes more resilient. The first step in transforming obstacles into helpers is reframing. When conflict appears, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to us?" ask, "What is this trying to teach us?" This single question changes your position from victim to participant. You stop pushing against life and start working with it. For example, an argument might be training you in patience. A period of distance might be teaching you independence within connection. A partner's flaw might be showing you where your compassion still has room to grow. When you see every challenge as a teacher, the energy of resistance softens into curiosity. The second step is teamwork. When something difficult arises, picture it not as a wall between you, but as a shared mountain to climb. The moment you shift from me versus you to us versus a problem, the atmosphere changes. You're no longer adversaries. You are allies. Speak from that stance. This challenge is ours. Let's lift it together. This approach turns even the hardest moments into opportunities for intimacy. The shared effort to overcome builds trust. You begin to feel that life is not testing you cruelly, but inviting you to grow stronger as one. Finally, practice gratitude for the struggle itself. It may feel unnatural at first, but gratitude changes everything. Whisper to yourself, "Thank you for this difficulty. It's teaching us to love better." In that acknowledgement, the obstacle loses its sting and becomes fuel for growth. Over time, you will notice a quiet transformation. Setbacks that once drained you now deepen your connection. Each time you face a challenge and stay united, you forge another link of strength. And those links become the very chain that holds love steady through the storms of life. Obstacles are not interruptions in love's journey. They are the journey. Each one refines, strengthens, and awakens a capacity to love beyond comfort, to love consciously with courage and heart. Chapter 20. Every descent becomes ascent. Life moves in waves, moments of expansion and contraction, clarity and confusion, joy and struggle. In relationships, these cycles are natural. Yet, many people panic when the energy drops. When warmth fades or moods darken, they think something is wrong. But just as night follows day, every descent carries within it the seed of ascent. This chapter invites you to see those low moments not as failures, but as steps in an upward spiral. The key is to hold on to your true state, the quiet awareness that goodness still lives underneath the fluctuation. When things feel heavy, whisper to yourself, this is only a turn in the spiral. The next rise has already begun. When you experience a descent, a conflict, a cold silence, a feeling of disconnection, resist the urge to define your relationship by that moment. Instead, watch it with calm eyes. See it as training, as recalibration. The descent often reveals something that needs attention, a hidden insecurity, an old wound, or forgotten tenderness. Seeing it clearly is already the beginning of the climb back up. Imagine a ladder inside your heart. Each rung represents a higher understanding of love, patience, empathy, humility, surrender. Every time life pushes you down, it also points you toward the next rung. The question is not, why did I fall, but what can I learn here that helps me rise higher? The great paradox is that the lower we descend, the more potential we have to ascend. When you feel furthest from love, your longing for it is strongest. That longing itself is the upward force. Let it work through you. Don't fight the fall. Let it teach you how to climb. Even in the darkest moments, there is always one steady truth. The connection between you and your partner still exists. It may be faint, but it's never gone. Like embers beneath ashes, it waits for a breath of awareness to reignite. Hold to that knowing. It is your rope back to light. Over time, you learn to trust the rhythm. You stop fearing the lows because you see what they bring: perspective, resilience, depth. You begin to welcome them as part of the dance. And slowly, you realize that the ladder of love doesn't just go up, it spirals endlessly toward more understanding, more peace, more unity. So when you next find yourself descending, pause and breathe. Remember that every descent is only a bend in the road to ascent. Nothing true is ever lost. The light returns, brighter, steadier, wiser than before. Chapter 21. Seeing what is, not what I wish. The final and perhaps most essential practice in love is learning to see clearly, to distinguish between what truly is and what the ego imagines. Much suffering in relationships comes not from reality itself, but from the stories we tell about it. The mind is a storyteller. It interprets everything: a glance, a word, a silence. It adds meaning where there is none, painting others with the colors of our fears, hopes, and past wounds. When our partner acts differently than we expect, the mind rushes to fill the gap. They don't care. They've changed. They don't love me anymore. But rarely are these conclusions true. They are shadows of interpretation. Seeing what is means pausing before judgment. When something triggers you, ask, what are the actual facts here? For example, your partner came home late. The fact is, they arrived at 9 instead of 7. The story is, they didn't want to be with me. Once you separate the two, clarity begins to return. You can respond to reality rather than imagination. Clarity is an act of love. It frees both people from unnecessary pain. It says, I will not accuse you of what exists only in my mind. This discipline requires humility, the willingness to admit that your perception is not always truth. But every time you do it, you invite peace. One powerful exercise is to practice the observer's pause. When emotion rises, imagine yourself as a calm witness watching the scene from a distance. Ask, what am I actually seeing? What is story and what is fact? You will find that most of what fuels conflict belongs to the realm of interpretation. When you act only on what is real, relationships become lighter. You stop reacting to ghosts and start relating to the person in front of you. You listen more, defend less, and discover that truth is simpler than the ego's fantasies. Over time, this clarity becomes a habit. You begin to sense when your mind is creating illusions, and instead of following them, you return to stillness. You learn to let reality reveal itself before you decide what it means. Seeing what is does not make you indifferent. It makes you wise. It allows you to love your partner not as a projection of your desires, but as they truly are, human, imperfect, and worthy of kindness. When love learns to see clearly, it stops demanding perfection. It starts rejoicing in truth. The fantasies dissolve, and what remains is simple, honest connection. The meeting of two souls who no longer need to pretend. To see what is, not what you wish, is a love in reality. It is to awaken from the dream of ego and enter the living moment, where love is always waiting, quiet, steady, and beautifully real. Chapter 22. Choosing connection above all. At the heart of every relationship lies a choice. The choice between connection and being right. The human mind loves to win. It wants to prove, to correct, to defend. But the heart only wants to stay connected. When conflict arises, we stand at a quiet crossroads. Do we protect the ego's position, or do we protect the bond? Choosing connection above all means remembering what truly matters. A single moment of victory in argument may satisfy the ego, but it leaves the heart colder. Connection, on the other hand, may ask you to surrender the final word, but it leaves both hearts open. In moments of tension, pause and breathe. Feel the weight of your words before you speak. Ask yourself, will what I'm about to say bring us closer or push us apart? If closeness is a goal, you may find that silence, a gentle tone, or a soft gaze carries far more truth than any well-crafted point. To choose connection is not to deny your perspective. It is to hold it with tenderness. To share your truth without attacking. To listen to your partner's truth without fear. This act of listening, when done with full attention, becomes sacred. You begin to hear not only the words, but the intent behind them, the wish to be understood, to be seen, to be valued. When you listen to intent, not just content, you begin to feel your partner's humanity beneath their words. You recognize that behind even clumsy expression or sharp tone, there's often longing for harmony. Connection deepens when you can sense that longing and respond to it. Even when the form it takes is imperfect, anchoring in shared peace requires practice. During conflict, visualize the two of you standing in a circle of calm light. The disagreement may swirl around you, but you both remain grounded in the same center. The intention to stay united. Say inwardly, I choose us over this argument. You'll notice that your tone softens, your breathing steadies, and your partner's defensiveness begins to melt. Love thrives not on perfection, but on remembering the shared core beneath the noise. When connection becomes your priority, you stop fighting to win and start learning to understand. And that simple choice, again and again, turns even conflict into communion. Chapter 23. From lack to sweet anticipation. Every heart knows the feeling of lack, the ache of wanting more closeness, more affection, more understanding. In love, this emptiness can feel painful, even discouraging. But lack is not an enemy. It is the soil where deeper love grows. When you learn to see emptiness as ripening desire rather than loss, it transforms into sweet anticipation. Think of longing as the inhale of love. You cannot exhale warmth without first inhaling need. Each time you feel distance or yearning, pause and breathe into it. Instead of calling it loneliness, call it preparation. Your heart is stretching to make more room for connection. Close your eyes for a moment and remember a time when you miss your partner deeply. Feel that ache, the tenderness in the chest, the quiet pull inward. Now imagine that same feeling not as suffering, but as a sign of love's strength. You miss because you care. You ache because your heart is alive. In that awareness, you can already taste the sweetness of what is to come. Visualize the next moment of closeness, the warmth of touch, the shared laughter, the peace of simply being together. Feel it as if it were already happening. Let gratitude rise for the love that exists, even when unseen. Every relationship moves through cycles of nearness and distance. The distance is not failure. It is rhythm. The heart learns to appreciate reunion only through the gentle ache of separation. When you stop resisting that rhythm, longing becomes joy. At the end of each day, whisper a quiet thanks for whatever you miss. Say, "Thank you for my longing. It keeps my love awake." This simple gratitude turns lack into presence. It changes emptiness into fullness. Love does not disappear when it is unseen. It simply rests, preparing to bloom again. And when it does, the sweetness is multiplied because you've learned that even the ache was part of the dance. Chapter 24, Aligning My Desires. We often think a desire is something personal. My needs, my goals, my dreams. But in the laboratory of love, desire can evolve. It can widen its scope from self-centered longing to shared intention. When you align your desires with the good of the relationship, your energy stops scattering and begins to harmonize. This experiment begins with stillness. Sit quietly and ask yourself, who am I beneath all my roles? Beneath the partner, the parent, the professional. Who remains? Don't rush to answer. Just listen inwardly. Beneath the noise of ambition and fear, there's a quieter voice, one that longs not for possession or victory, but for truth, peace, and unity. Now, look at your current desires through that lens. Which of them serve your connection, and which serve only the ego's comfort? Some may be small, the wish to be right, to have the last word, to get your way. Others may be deeper, the desire to be seen, to be safe, to grow. The goal is not to suppress desire, but to refine it. Each day, take one wish and expand it to include the relationship. For example, instead of saying, "I want to feel peaceful," say, "I want us both to feel peaceful." Instead of, "I want to be understood," say, "I want mutual understanding to grow between us." This subtle shift reorients your heart from isolation to unity. As you practice this, something profound happens. The line between your happiness and your partner's begins to blur. You realize that true fulfillment never exists at the expense of another. It includes them. Your desires become wiser, less reactive, more radiant. This alignment also brings peace. When your inner wishes harmonize with the flow of the relationship, struggle decreases. You no longer fight against reality. You move with it. You stop demanding love to appear in one form and allow it to express itself in the way it naturally unfolds. At night, as you rest, reflect. Did my desires today serve separation or unity? If you find that some were small or self-focused, don't judge yourself. Simply notice and redirect tomorrow. Over time, this practice trains a heart to wish for what heals, not just for what pleases. When your personal will and the will of love align, you feel a quiet joy, a sense that you are in rhythm with something larger than yourself. And in that rhythm, desire becomes devotion. Part 3, Integration and Routines. Love, like any living system, needs rhythm. It grows through repetition, reflection, and gentle renewal. The laboratory relationship doesn't thrive on grand gestures. It flourishes through small, consistent practices. In this final part, we gather everything learned and give it structure. Daily habits that nurture awareness, weekly cycles that reset connection, and rituals that help prepare and adapt through life's changing seasons. These routines are not chores. They are acts of devotion, simple, mindful ways to keep love alive, warm, and conscious in the flow of everyday life. Chapter 26, The Evening Lab, Debrief and Dialogue. Each night offers an opportunity to integrate the day, to harvest its lessons, and clear the field for tomorrow. The Evening Lab is a brief, sacred pause, 10 to 15 minutes of shared reflection that turns ordinary evenings into moments of conscious intimacy. Begin by creating a quiet space, maybe after dinner, maybe before sleep. Sit close, not to fix or analyze, but to observe together. Take a breath, and start with the first question. What demand did I release today? Perhaps it was the urge to be right, the expectation of praise, or the habit of withdrawing when hurt. Naming it aloud allows you to see your progress. It's not about confession. It's about witnessing your own evolution. Next, move to the second question. What warmth did I notice today? Here, the focus shifts from effort to gratitude. Recall a small moment, a smile, a kind gesture, a look of understanding. By naming these moments, you strengthen the memory of connection in both your minds. What is noticed grows. Finally, the third question: what tiny experiment will I try tomorrow? Maybe it's listening a bit longer before speaking. Maybe it's greeting your partner with softness, even if the day was long. These small experiments keep the relationship laboratory alive. They prevent stagnation by turning love into ongoing discovery. This nightly ritual does not have to be serious. Some nights, it will be quiet and reflective. Other nights, you'll laugh together at your own quirks. What matters is the rhythm, the consistent return to observation, gratitude, and intention. In time, you'll find that this simple routine becomes one of the strongest anchors in your shared life. It's not the length of the conversation that matters, but the willingness to show up. Night after night, you renew the vow of awareness. Chapter 27, Weekly Review and Reset, where the evening lab helps you stay connected day to day. The weekly review helps you step back and see the larger arc of growth. Once a week, perhaps on a Sunday evening or a calm morning, take 20 minutes to reflect together. Begin by looking back on the week with kindness. Ask, what practices felt alive? Where did we lose the thread? What surprised us? Approach the answers not as judgments, but as data from your share experiment. Then, choose one or two focus practices for the coming week. Maybe you both want to deepen listening, practice patience in stressful moments, or remember to share appreciation daily. Keep it light, measurable, and specific. One clear focus is better than 10 vague intentions. As the week unfolds, take mental notes of small shifts, moments when you pause instead of reacting, when laughter returned sooner after tension, or when tenderness showed up unexpectedly. These are your micro wins. They may seem minor, but they are the quiet milestones of growth. When you review them together, celebrate them. Gratitude reinforces the behaviors that sustain love. You'll begin to notice that progress in relationships is rarely linear. It's cyclical, like breathing, expansion and contraction, learning and resting. If a week feels heavy or unproductive, use that review not to criticize but to reset. Ask, what support do we need right now? Or what would make this easier? This openness keeps the laboratory compassionate, not perfectionistic. In the rhythm of weekly review and reset, love becomes a living practice, adaptable, forgiving, and continually renewed. Chapter 28, Repair After Rupture. Even the most conscious relationships experience ruptures, moments when connection breaks, tempers rise, or silence hardens between you. What defines lasting love is not the absence of rupture, but the ability to repair. Repair is how the heart learns resilience. When conflict arises, the first step is to regulate. Before words, before explanations, take care of your body. Breathe slowly. Feel your feet on the ground. Wait until the emotional wave subsides enough that you can see clearly again. Without regulation, repair turns into another argument. The second step is to share facts. Speak only of what actually happened, not assumptions or stories, but what was seen or heard. This grounds a conversation in reality and prevents the spiral of accusation. Next, acknowledge impact. Even if your intention was good, your partner's feelings are real. Saying, I see how that hurt you, opens the door to healing. Empathy is the bridge that turns separation into understanding. The fourth step is to offer repair. This may be an apology, a gesture of kindness, or simply the willingness to start fresh. It's not about erasing what happened, but restoring trust through action. Finally, re-anchor the vow. Quietly remind each other, we are on the same team. This final step lifts you both out of the moment and reconnects you with a deeper purpose, growth through unity. Repair takes humility, but each time you do it, love grows stronger. The cracks that once divided you become the seams where compassion lives. Over time, repair stops feeling like fixing something broken and becomes a familiar rhythm, the heartbeat of a living bond. Chapter 29, Roles, Seasons, and Stress. Every relationship moves through seasons, stages of expansion and contraction, joy and pressure, growth and rest. Parenthood, illness, career changes, aging. Each phase reshapes the rhythm of love. The laboratory must adapt, not resist. During parenting years, energy is often scarce. Communication becomes practical, and romance may fade into background noise. Instead of mourning what was, reframe this season as a new experiment. Love expressed through service, patience, and shared exhaustion. The nightly lab might shrink to 5 minutes, but the intention remains. Consistency, not length, keeps the connection alive. During illness, vulnerability deepens the work. The laboratory shifts from discovery to care. Here, the lesson is compassion, to hold each other gently through pain without losing your own balance. Small gestures, a hand held, a silent prayer, a soft word, become sacred. In career sprints or creative seasons, time together may shorten. The danger here is forgetting to reconnect. Build micro rituals. A daily check-in text, a few deep breaths together before bed, a shared meal with phones aside. Even brief moments of true presence prevent distance from hardening into disconnection. As partners age, roles evolve again. Strength and independence give way to reflection and interdependence. The laboratory becomes quieter but richer. The focus shifts from improvement to gratitude, from building to being. The experiments continue, but the tone softens. Whatever the season, the rule remains the same. Adapt the form, keep the essence. You don't have to do everything, just something consistently. Love is not a straight line. It is a living ecosystem that changes with time. By honoring those changes, by adjusting your experiments to meet life where it is, you allow the relationship to remain alive, not as a perfect construct, but as an evolving organism, full of movement and meaning. Through all seasons, the laboratory of love endures, not because it avoids stress, but because it transforms into strength, tenderness, and wisdom. Each phase becomes another chapter in the same long experiment, learning, day by day, how two lives can grow as one. Part 4, Advanced Lab Notes. Every laboratory has stages. In the beginning, you learn the basic tools: awareness, reflection, compassion. Over time, the experiments grow subtler. You begin to study not only your actions, but the invisible forces that shape them: the ego, desire, and purpose. These deeper studies transform love from a reaction into a craft, from something that happens to you, into something you consciously co-create. In this section, we explore 3 essential dimensions of advanced practice. First, developing ego literacy, the ability to recognize the fingerprint of the ego before it takes over. Second, understand the dynamics of desire, how to discern what truly nourishes love from what only feeds habit or fear. And finally, keeping purpose alive as a power source, the light that turns everyday moments into acts of unity. These chapters are for those ready to refine their awareness, to see beneath the surface, to work with the raw materials of the human heart, and to turn every inner movement into part of love's great experiment. Chapter 30, Ego Literacy. To love, well, you must learn the language of the ego, its tone, its timing, its favorite disguises. The ego is not an enemy. It is a survival mechanism, built to protect, to control, to separate. It speaks loudly when it feels threatened and softly when it feels seen. The goal is not to destroy it, but to read it, to recognize its handwriting in your thoughts and reactions. Begin with observation. Notice moments when urgency floods you, when you feel the need to respond immediately, to correct, to defend. That urgency is one of the ego's clearest signatures. It tells you, act now, before you lose control. But love is never in a hurry. When you sense that rush, pause. Let the feeling pass through your body without obeying it. In that pause, you reclaim awareness. The second signature is certainty. The ego craves to be right. It equates knowing with safety. When you feel an unshakable conviction that your perspective is the only truth, stop and breathe. Ask yourself, what might I be missing? Curiosity breaks certainty's spell. It reopens the field of connection. The third signature is superiority. The quiet, often hidden sense that you are the more aware one, the one doing the real work. This is the ego's most subtle trick, using spirituality to disguise separation. The antidote is humility, the recognition that both you and your partner are students of the same lesson. You may be at different steps, but you're walking the same path. Ego literacy develops through repetition. Each time you catch yourself reacting, don't judge, just label it. Ah, that's urgency. That's the need to be right. That's superiority. By naming it, you weaken its hold. Over time, you begin to see that the ego isn't personal. It's a pattern, a reflex. When you learn to read it, you no longer fall under its spell. You become the observer, the quiet scientist watching the experiment unfold. And from that place of awareness, you can choose differently. You can respond with patience instead of pride, listening instead of defense. The more fluent you become in ego's language, the freer love becomes. Awareness transforms reactivity into wisdom. And every time you catch the ego in motion and meet it with gentleness, you turn another page in the study of your own soul. Chapter 31, Desire Dynamics. Desire is the pulse of human life. It is the current that moves us to connect, to create, to seek meaning. Yet not all desires are equal. Some nourish the soul, others drain it. In relationships, learning the dynamics of desire means distinguishing between healthy needs, conditioned cravings, and shared aims. Healthy needs arise from authenticity, the desire to give and receive care, to feel seen, to grow together. Conditioned cravings, on the other hand, come from habit and fear, the need to control, to possess, to prove. Shared aims are the bridge between the two, the desires you and your partner consciously align toward. Peace, understanding, unity. Begin by observing your own patterns. When a desire arises, ask, what is this really for? Does it seek connection or validation? Does it strengthen the bond or feed the ego's hunger for comfort and control? You may find that even noble desires to help, to teach, to improve can carry traces of ego beneath them. The goal is not to suppress desire, but to refine it. Imagine desire as a stream of water. Left unchecked, it floods or erodes. Guided with awareness, it irrigates the garden of love. Boundaries are the channels that keep it flowing in balance. Practical boundarying begins with communication. Speak your needs clearly, but also listen to your partner's rhythm. When you both express your desires openly, they stop being hidden pressures and become shared data for the laboratory. There is also an inner boundary, the recognition of when desire turns into demand. A healthy need says, I long for this. A demand says, I can't be okay without it. The moment you sense that shift, pause and return to self-awareness. Remind yourself, love is not built on fulfilling every craving, but on understanding what each craving reveals about your growth. Over time, you'll notice patterns. Some desires fade as understanding deepens. Others strengthen, transforming into shared goals, deeper connection, creative collaboration, mutual spiritual development. When both partners learn to distinguish between impulse and purpose, desire becomes a sacred energy, a source of creativity, not conflict. It stops pulling you apart and begins to propel you forward together. Chapter 32, Purpose as Power Source. Every experiment, every act of love, draws its energy from one central source, purpose. Without it, even the best techniques lose meaning. With it, every small action, a look, a gesture, a pause, becomes charged with significance. The higher aim of relationship is not comfort, nor even happiness. It is unity, the conscious realization that two lives can become channels of something larger than either alone. This purpose is not theoretical. It is deeply practical. It gives direction to daily life, turning ordinary tasks into acts of devotion. To keep purpose vivid, begin each day with remembrance. Before you check messages or rush into routine, take one quiet minute and remind yourself, today I live for connection. Through this relationship, I learn to love. That intention, set clearly in the morning, shapes the tone of the entire day. Throughout the day, whenever irritation or distraction arises, return to the purpose. Ask, how can this moment serve unity? Sometimes the answer is silence. Sometimes it's humor. Sometimes it's honest speech. Purpose doesn't dictate behavior. It orients it. It's the compass that points love back toward the North Star. At night, reflect, did my actions today strengthen or weaken the sense of we? This simple review keeps your practice alive. It turns purpose from a concept into a living rhythm. Purpose also provides energy in hard times. When stress, illness, or misunderstanding arrive, remember why you began this journey. You are not here to perfect one another. You are here to evolve together. That memory shifts the emotional climate from resistance to reverence. Even pain becomes meaningful when it serves growth. Finally, purpose links your relationship to something beyond itself. The love you build does not end with two people. It ripples outward, to family, to community, to the larger human web. Every act of patience, forgiveness, and care adds to the field of connection that sustains the world. When you live with purpose as your power source, you no longer need constant reassurance. The daily ups and downs lose their grip because you know where you're headed. The laboratory becomes a sanctuary, a place where the experiment of love is also the practice of awakening. And as you keep that higher aim alive, the smallest details of life, a shared meal, a conversation, a quiet evening, turn into sparks of the same great light. Purpose gives them meaning. Purpose gives them power. And through it, love becomes not only a feeling, but a path, steady, sacred, and infinite in its unfolding. Conclusion: from two hearts to one humanity. Every great journey begins with two hearts, two minds, two centers of longing drawn together by an unseen current. From the outside, it may look like romance, partnership, family, but beneath all appearances, something far larger is at work. Love is not an emotion. It is a law, a universal principle that binds the scattered parts of creation into a single whole. The laboratory relationship is where this law first becomes visible. Two people, meeting across difference, learn what the universe itself has been practicing since the beginning: the art of uniting opposites, light and darkness, giving and receiving, masculine and feminine, strength and tenderness. All are variations of one deeper rhythm, the movement toward connection. When you begin to see love this way, as a law rather than a mood, your daily life takes on new meaning. Every act of patience, every pause in anger, every gentle gesture becomes fulfillment of nature's most sacred principle, the drive toward unity. You are no longer just managing a relationship. You are participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. The work starts small. It begins with you and one other heart, the partner who mirrors your strengths and exposes your limits. Together, you learn the language of giving, the balance of self and other, the quiet courage of forgiveness. You learn that real love isn't born from perfection, but from persistence, the willingness to begin again after every misunderstanding. In those moments of renewal, something extraordinary happens. The boundary between me and you begins to soften. Where there were once two separate lives, a third presence emerges, the shared field of we. This is not loss of individuality. It is a discovery of something greater that holds both of you. In that shared field, you start to taste the nature of all life: interdependence, mutual care, a deeper harmony that extends beyond the personal. And as this awareness grows, it begins to radiate outward. The way you speak to your partner affects how you speak to your children. The patience you practice at home becomes compassion for strangers. The understanding you cultivate in one relationship ripples quietly into the world. The human heart is designed to expand. What begins as love for one person can widen to include a family, a community, a people, and ultimately, all of humanity. The laboratory of two hearts is a training ground for this larger unity. Every act of healing within your relationship contributes to the healing of the collective field. Every moment of true connection sends light through the web of life. Union, then, is not simply a personal goal. It is the deepest meaning of existence. The same force that draws planets into orbit and rivers to the sea draws hearts toward one another. To align with that force is to live in harmony with reality itself. So when you look at your partner, in joy or in struggle, in silence or in laughter, remember what you are truly practicing. You are learning the art of oneness. You are becoming fluent in the universal language that transcends all differences. And as that learning deepens, you begin to sense that the two was only ever beginning. Love's final destination is not in the couple alone, but in humanity itself, in the recognition that we are all parts of one vast, living organism. From two hearts to one humanity, this is a great experiment. To learn to unite, starting with the smallest circle of intimacy and letting that circle grow until it embraces everyone. Because in the end, the meaning of life is simple and it is vast. To learn to love, to learn to unite, to begin with two hearts, and to widen endlessly until nothing and no one is left outside to embrace.